Hello and welcome to this Python and Django live code hangout. Today we'll be working on the companionship care app, and I've got a couple of tasks in mind. One is a maintenance related task. We're going to try to clean up our continuous integration. And the other task I've assigned myself over here is a password change form. Currently the users can edit their profile, but there's not a password field on that profile, so once you set your initial password when you register, can't change it after that. I think this should be a relatively small task. I'll have to figure out, I've done a little bit of research, figure out an idiomatic way to, following the Django conventions, using the Django authentication system to allow people to change their password. But let's start here with this continuous integration. We've got half of our task done. This was contributed, as mentioned in a previous pull request, live code session, pull request review, by the mythologist. And they wrote this Python YAML definition, which uses GitHub actions to run several jobs, including checking out our code, installing the dependencies, and then formatting iSort in black. And there's a separate runner that kind of does a little bit of the same, but then also runs pflake. I got to check out what pflake is. I thought it was autoflake. I just realized I got a typo. And I believe, well, it's saying flake 8. I believe flake 8 is more related to linting. As the name kind of connotes. Lint being like, well, in this case, flakes, kind of like dandruff, I guess, is the analogy here by extension. And lint normally is stuff that sticks to our clothing. So I'm thinking about moving this flake 8 step over here to our main job, which is currently called format, and does formatting. And I'll just rename this to lint because we're kind of linting stuff. Format kind of implies that we'd be changing the code in this. Formatting is usually when you edit code and save it to comply with linting rules. But sort of decided not to format in the pull in this action because we don't want the action to modify the code. We want a human to manually modify the code. So the following step, thank you again to the mythologist for getting us started on this road. We're just doing some minor changes here. The following code task will be to run the actual unit tests, and these I believe I'll just run in the same job. And the reason I'm thinking about that is let's say I want to reuse these dependencies, so all of these steps, instead of running them again here just for efficiency's sake. That means more steps in a single job, and I think these are sequential. I don't know that much about GitHub actions, so I'm learning as I go. But we'll just have one lint and test task flow. Later on, we can get more advanced as needed and as we learn more about GitHub actions. But for now, I'm kind of trying to just wade into the waters just a little bit and add some automated review on our pull requests, keep our code quality up. So I'm gonna grab a little bit of water and we'll dig into the code. So just make sure we got everything pulled in from the main branch. We'll create a new branch and we'll call this lint and test. We're going to unify those. Now, the first thing I'm going to do is just give myself some naming, I think for 1 second, some consistency with naming. So at least call these lint call this lint for now. One thing I want to do is check out if I can give a job a name. I believe this should be possible. And it probably is using the same property for consistency. So the job lint would have a name. But I want to be careful here. This YAML, I don't want to break stuff. So let's take a look. The name is Python. Whoops. Daisy. That's interesting how I did that. I'm not sure. All right, so the name would be Python. And then within here, we got lint and test. It's running on push to the main. Anytime we do anything with the main branch, we don't have a development branch right now. I'm a single developer as it stands, and we're prototyping. As the project matures, it's likely that we'll need to get more elaborate development flow. And then we're running on pull requests. And pull requests currently, again, are open against main because I don't have a developed branch or staging or any of that. So that's what this on. And I have not read through these, but this is good. It gets pretty fine grain. And it looks like you might even be able to call inputs, permissions, environment. You can set environment variables, which we will need at a later point. We're going to try to run test coverage. That would be nice if some of these could run concurrently, like these lint and test. There's no reason that they have to be sequential. We'll take just a quick look at the concurrency thing. Then we have a list of jobs. So here we are, job ID, job ID name. So we'll go over to the jobs doc. And job ID needs. So essentially, one thing you could do is remove these dependencies in poetry into their own job. Yeah, I don't know, and possibly use those. There's also options to cache the output of certain things. It's getting a bit over my head right now in terms of complexity. And even defining concurrency might be unnecessary right now. But each step has a name. These are looking pretty good. And uses can be good for existing actions. And abstracting. And then the command you run or a shell with interesting. Yeah, so a lot of these are things that you would need for optimization. So let's just check over here though, the concurrency, and did I open the name? I think it was just jobs.name. Currently it says lint. Wait, take it one step at a time since I'm just renaming things to lint. That way I can commit this and push it up and watch the result in action. Haven't made significant changes. Might have introduced a syntax error. Thing is, I don't think jobs can have a name here. Maybe lint would have a name. I think it's like jobs, job ID. Yeah, there we go. Lint and save. So it's essentially linting right now, lint and test later. Let's start there, then I'll move this flake8 stuff over. And p flake8's interesting. What's p flake8? PyProject, since we're using PyProject. All right. So PyProject is a new-ish format to define project requirements and some other metadata that your tools might use. It's just not fully adopted throughout the Python ecosystem. There's several ways of doing that. I guess like setup.py, for example. But basically, we understand enough. And we're using PyProject YAML to define some flake8 settings here, as well as settings for other tools. Okay. So yeah, I'm going to start small. I'm going to do this one commit and just rename or add. Let's see what I do. Rename to lint. All right, and then commit and push this to our origin, and we'll say closes 59 because I'm going to finish these, or actually these, and move on this later. Task coverage reporting. And I don't know quite what to name it, so we'll just start there. Hey, this is weird. Somehow I've forked off of. Huh. Off of a different remote. Dang it. All right. Let me just double check what happened there. This is from previous pull request review. I don't know, this site's going to be pretty spammy. I can already see it. A white screen after the content loaded. It's like, what's the problem? All right, so check the current branch. Okay, it says origin. I don't understand what's going on there. It already committed. Okay, it's already committed to changes. I've pushed to origin. Did I? Closes. I just didn't open the pull request, I guess. That was a bit confusing. Bit mysterious. Closes 59, I think it was. To draft. Yeah, I'll not worry about concurrency now. We've got the name, and now our pipeline should be running. So basically the only change here is being lint, so changing the names of stuff. Now if I run the pipeline on this, which it already is branch, we can see here that the lint has been renamed, and it's got lint with ISort, lint with black, so that works. And this is what I just wanted to only do once. This installing the dependencies takes the most time. These are pretty quick, but nonetheless take time as well, and I don't want to do that prior to each job, so there might be a way to make this a little bit faster, but these ISort and black are pretty fast. And then I'm going to add the test, which is a little bit slower. So the main bulk of the time is spent here, 41 seconds in the dependencies. Now comparing that with the other workflows, it's not so long. Let me refresh this real quick. Code QL takes the longest. 52 seconds to run the test, 58 seconds to run the lint, and I think that's because it's installing the dependencies in both. Let's get those down. So 1 minute's not so bad to wait. So the next one I'll do is just move this lint job, which is gonna maybe not necessarily break this, but what I'll need to do is comment it out at least. And paste that in there. I'm wondering if we need 2 jobs here. Well, first let's just run it and go with how it's written. Code QL is still running. It takes a while. 2 minutes. Not so bad for as many tests as it's running. Cool. So then we'll sync these changes. And then check how fast code comment is, or how long it takes to run. Alright, this is a bit scrolly. And then I'm going to try a single command, and I can actually just run this locally. So if I, for example, run this, Control Shift V, home, I think I do need a cd dot. If I run everything, grab the statistics, Max complexity. It's weird. It's having troubles with paths. The directory should be like here. So let's just see if that'll work. Oh, weird. Let's look in my snap directory. And it's not really stopping the build either, it's sort of passing, so that's not what we're wanting. Bummer. We want it to fail us. I wanted to, oh, that's, yeah. So it is respecting the 88 character limit that we chose. Just checking the chat over here. And I'm going to clean up these issues, which are being raised more or less, or else put explicit ignores 501 on those particular lines where it's like, yeah, I'm not going to be able to really change that. Some of them I can. So the black should automatically be changing it. So honestly, well, if black's not catching it, we'll just manually intervene. Okay. We'll come back to this, and I've got the testing part. A little bit of documentation here. So let's refresh this. It's still running on here. Code climate's all good. So code climate, I guess, is smart enough to know that nothing's really changing except these YAML files, so it doesn't have to really rerun on all the other files. It's only checking the one. Here we go. Looks like we got a failure. That's what I'm after. Nice. Okay. Yep. All right, so let's go ahead and fix these. Looking good, looking good. Fix or ignore, one by one. People views. There we go. We want that to fail. The whole purpose of this is so that we pay attention to the lint. So start with people, views, and that the reviewer doesn't have to do that. Whoops, there we go. All right, starting with line 2, F401. Login required is not used. Cool. Because it was refactored from a function-based view to a class-based view. So instead of using the decorator, we used a mixin. Got that one. Now it would be nice if there was a good printout here instead of having to read the lines of code. That might be possible. Format. So I could just like show it in the GitHub UI. Oh man, that's really nice. Wow. Who made this? Yeah, in the context of books, okay. Yeah, that's cool. Is there an official one? And it's got Python, AutoPep 8, black. Let's see what Python example with black like 8 goes true. Wow. Now is iSort? iSort wasn't supported, was it? That'd be cool though. Maybe we'll need Flake 8. The config though. It's gonna break a little bit here. Flake 8 should be installed though, but it won't pick up the configuration in the PyProject YAML. So there'll be a little bit of trade-off here. So this exit 0 is a good step. We're gonna test out this new lint action. While that's running, I'm gonna grab a little bit of mate. Oh, that's hot. Okay, good, we got some breakage. Did our lint, is this anything? Right, because the lines weren't changed in this pull request. So that makes sense. Let's find out. Test. Cannot force update branch. Huh. Well, I don't know why that's doing that. I don't really trust third-party code in these actions. It's kind of suspicious sometimes. We'll revert that. Can't edit that directly. Too good to be true. Look into that one later. I'll do these ones I just complained about. And I don't want to force commit, so or force push, so I'm not going to roll back the commit. I'm actually going to move it forward. What, did I push automatically? No, I shouldn't have. Alright, so it did give me a nice list. Imported on use, people have used Pi. Yeah, I think this one's kind of 102 online 28. Oh, come on. $25 was fine. 40. Most of my comments are Black's not formatting my comments for me. 40, 189. Same one, view 5, 9, 189. That's good. Models.py 6. $72. I wonder if there's a way to have black lint comments. Yeah, I can see why not. All right, no biggie. $73. So it's all those 61 tests up by 61. 70. This is weird. Now black's gonna. Let me see if I can view this line. 88. Is it gutter? No. Code column. Column. 80 vertical rulers. It's not gutter, it's called something else. Editor ruler. Determine below. So right now it doesn't have a ruler. So if I go to edit preferences, it'll make my life a little bit easier here to show a ruler. Edit. Well, where is it? File, preferences, settings, ruler, text editor. Render vertical rulers after a certain number of monospace characters using multiple values for multiple rulers. No rulers are drawn if the array is empty. Head into settings, JSON. So essentially it's just 80. Oh, nice. But 88. That's where we are. Because we're doing Python editor rulers would be 88. Can you do it in just Python? Python. I should make one Python object, but no, right. Python editor rulers 88. It doesn't work. All right. Because it's kind of language dependent. I suppose 88 is good in most languages. So yeah, this I can just kind of scroll, be like, where's the line? Ah, there we go. There we go. Ooh, look at that. Oh, here we go. That one shouldn't complain. Next. Let's see if I can make this a little more narrow. It's essentially, no. Good question. That's essentially the documented answer is correct, or something, I'm not sure. So I did the tests. Good. Done with settings. Come back to this. YAML. Caregivers tests. Unused because there's no tests. Oops. Caregivers tests. Oh, well, this is probably one we'll all ignore it. Python course settings. Project course settings.py line 120. Where's my? Oh, they're over there. 120. Yeah, so this is one where I can't really. ESLint ignore specific line. No, I can not ESLint, but. Or pep8. I don't want to know QA, I just want the specific line. Well, that might be good. Ignore the comments, but I can format my comments. just think, what do you put? Let's see. This first one had a link to the docs. At least I can check the documentation. I don't know a way to, make that longer. Should be like no QA hash right there. All right, no Pepe. Let's try that. I would like to ignore a specific error. Like E266, but ours is a different error. I'm not searching for the right term. Yeah, I want specific here. There we go. That's better. No QA and the error to ignore. The error is E501. Done with that. Accounts views. So that was not used. Strange. Yeah, I'm not sending any localized text to the user. Got it. Model.py 41. Okay. That text is a bit awkward and it is localized. Okay. That's pi1. Migrations. Oh, okay. So I probably want to ignore the migrations files. Whoa, 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 whoa. Let's see. Yeah, this would be nice if they would follow Pepe rules. I think it is worth fixing. So exclude, and then start out. How you do this? Let's see. The whole pattern migrations. To indicate that those are directories, I'll put a trailing slash. So this should iterate through all of the directories in the project folder and ignore the migrations folders. We'll see if that one works, and if not, I'll circle back around to it. Click 8. And we'll keep working through these lint. This looks good, looks good. Getting further along, and the lint action didn't work as I was hoping. And we'll come back to this, automating the tests we might do today, migrations. Migrations, migrations, migrations. And I could just format this as black. I thought I had done that. Another pull request, models.py, 45. Activities, models.py. Counts, activities, models.py. I'm doing this work so that other contributors don't have to worry about it, and we'll have cleaner pull requests, 45. Line too long. All right, so we should be able to just see that at a glance. Avoid adding sensitive. Oh yeah, you can't do that one. So I have to do no QA. QA specifically. I mean, I could make my. Oops, wrong button. Could make my help text shorter, but I believe that help text should take precedent over lint rules. I'd rather have an informative help text than a short line of code. Granted, there's probably improvements I can make to these help texts as well. All right, so that should be it for those. Activity models are 81, right? Close that, close that, close that, close that. Coming back around to it. Activities tests, and again, don't follow my example here. Write tests. I have some tests in the main app, where the bulk of the logic is running through, the caregivers part of it, the people part. I think I've written some tests here where it matters, and a lot of these other apps are actually just accessed through people where we have these views. So they're not, but that's not so much of an excuse not to test them at all, but I'm strategic with the tests I've written. Okay, so then we're almost on migrations, should get ignored. Yeah. All right, I think we're good to go. So let's just run, commit these lint rules. push them up, and I'm going to take a quick break while waiting for everything to run on this branch. F5, maximize it, and we'll come back. See you in a minute. All right, thanks for waiting. It looks like, if I refresh the page again, our lint now is green after fixing those tests, specifically lint with flake 8. And it looks like there was no errors. So I'd like to, it would be nice if I could consolidate these into a single command. I think it's just this command. That's all that's needed. Because that should run all the tests. Flake 8 count is count needed. I mean, not so important, to be honest. All right, so let's just properly align these now. Split the windows, close this out, and I'm going to just run one command. So count, select. I think it's just all kind of self-explanatory. It's only going to run those tests. Specify the list of error codes you wish Flake 8 to report, similar to the ignore. So I want it to report everything. If it's omitted, it should run everything. Show source. I think that's kind of self-explanatory. Print the source code generating the warning question. Not so much. It's giving me the line number. You got to fix it anyway. So I think this is all we need. I believe this is all we need. Without the count. Max complexity, I think, is excessive or unneeded as well. We've got psychometric complexity coming from code climate. And what what the default value is there. We'll leave the max complexity and I'll take the count off. It might have a little bit of conflict with the code climate. If so, I can remove it. Okay, complexity. Double check. Yeah, code climate's already doing that. So I'll remove that. So just give us the statistics. Do we even need statistics? What do those do? No. Just run it. Very cool. And essentially I'm going to remove this next. Add the testing command. Almost done. We're pretty close. Add the testing command at the same time. Takes a minute. All right. And it will automatically update. Somehow it's pulling that. There we go. Yeah, so that ran. Everything was good. All right, let's then add the test command. And that's the working tree. I don't want to commit there. Let me just get back over here. It's kind of annoying that I can commit to this working tree tab, but that's okay. This is just I think this might be I might need to prefix this. I probably don't need this suffix here. So I'm in the project. I can run the tests. Hopefully that's all we need. And this is called All right. So yeah, it's looking in the root directory. That's kind of what I was thinking. I didn't know the context. So yeah, it's in the root of the repository that most of these commands are being run. Don't have a fast forward option, just gotta wait for it. Just kind of thinking also about the next step. So I think, well, I've actually done this part where we added the tests. So we'll move past that. And we've got a little bit of time. So I'll go ahead and work on this second task. Oh no. Makes sense. Makes sense. Oh, shoot. Maybe that'll work. Change into the project directory and then run the thing. Come on, pick it up. This is guesswork. Yeah, because the context, even though I'm running Python from the folder above project, so the imports aren't going to work. When I invoke Python, I need to be in the project directory, I think. I think that'll fix it. If not, I'll do some Googling. And actually, I'll probably wrap up this session. It's good to do one task, and then I might start another live code session directly after this to work on the second task. That way things are kind of compartmentalized. I can review this. This has been a fairly considerable amount of work in terms of the changes that were necessary to make this happen. Most of those, of course, were linting, which was being ignored previously. So we're hopefully going to be good to go after this. That lint test, just take a peek real quick. Okay, so it's at the dependencies stage. Yeah, it would be nice to be able to maybe cache this dependencies. I don't know how it would, if we update a dependency or change it, how that would be treated. I don't know enough about it, so I'm kind of leaving that alone. Some more advanced optimization. Oh, casty. The test is not going to work. All right. All right. Let me think here for a second. anything manage pi. Now, I did read this honey badger article, and the approach they took was more general one. They installed a package called Django pip. What's it called? PyTest, Django PyTest, PyTest Django, which just lets you run a regular PyTest command here. I might take that approach. One thing I was concerned about is the Django PyTest has only a single developer, if I recall correctly. And so I don't want to add dependencies if I don't have to. So let's see if there's another way to just call the Django management command from a GitHub action. I'm sure there is. Check out, run, pip install PyTest. Okay. And I'd like it to be defined in our dev dependencies or something like that. So, oh, here, this is kind of a strange one. Checking it out, setting it up. Installing dependencies, making the migrations, and running the tests. Now when I do this, could not import Django. Well, the difference is I'm using poetry. What if I do this? This will essentially run it. Poetry runs in the environment. Runs a command in the environment, in the poetry virtual environment. Yep, so that's the deal. And then all the dependencies will be there. When I was just running it here in the global environment, it wasn't picking it up. So that makes sense. Poetry is, I guess, creating a virtual environment. Sometimes you can disable that for troubleshooting purposes or for other reasons. That there's a couple of bugs around that, around these poetry virtual environments getting stuck in caching layers or something in continuous integration we've had to wrangle with. But in any case, so use poetry to run test command. Boom, boom. Upload. Oh, send it up there. Cool. You can run arbitrary scripts. Very cool. Good to know. All right. Hopefully this is the last time we have to fiddle with this, but it's an improvement. Getting everything running, all the tests running was the important part. And in writing tests, actually writing tests throughout, it's essential. I have to be continuing to do that. Let's just see what other people are doing. Whoa, this is heavy. Oh, I don't have time to read all that. See, this is why I thought it would work, but I think it's because pip is installing these requirements globally or as your root user, so that would work in that case. I need to run this inside of Poetry's virtual environment. And the same thing would be happening if pip were actually creating a virtual environment, which you don't always have to do in a development kind of container. And we don't have to add this PyTest Django, but it might be something we'll come back to. In particular, it lets us work with fixtures, which could be helpful as our test suites get more complicated. Yeah, but there's the setup method in the Django testing. So yeah, it's all right. I think we're done with this command reference. We're on to the testing part of it, and still failing. Dang. Well, hopefully we'll have a new error. Yeah, I think this is the problem here. Same thing. Okay, so we need the project prefix. Poetry run Python. I hope this will. So either I need to change directory and then run this, or prefix it and hope that the context is there. Because I think the context will be relative to the management script. Let's try it. But this is kind of like Kerbal Space Program approach to coding. You gotta try these things and then see if they explode. All right, one second. Get some tea. Okay, so we'll go back. Check the tests with the project prefix. I think this is going to be good. Knock wood. Dependencies take a while. Good to go. All right, just needed that prefix. A couple little tweaks there. Needed to run the command inside the Poetry shell and make sure we're telling Poetry where the file, or they're telling Python it is, where the exact file is, the exact file location is in the project subdirectory. And that's just for organizational purposes, so that we can have other non-code things in the root directory and we don't have a big cluttered root directory. I might even do something like removing or moving these markdown files to a docs folder or something like that later. Very cool. All right, so I think I'm just going to call it good on this pull request. We have the green light so far, almost. We're waiting for the code QL. Let me just take a quick look at the changes, and we'll do a recap. Most of the changes were here. Everything else is lint that was caught by AutoPep 8, scroll blindness, and one change to our project toml. So we'll just mention that. We're excluding those and extending more. Oh, this is for black compatibility, so we'll just go with the flow on that one. And we'll kind of just read through this YAML file more directly. I was thinking though, this if I view these side by side or split and hide white space changes, it might make the code a little bit easier to review on GitHub in terms of during the live code summary. Yeah, maybe do that. That way I don't have to have a bunch of files open in my editor. The only problem with this GitHub code review approach is it puts the files in alphabetical order, not necessarily kind of other meaningful arrangements like the code flow through an app or something like that. In this case, I think this will be fine to just read here. So let's make sure we got the green light. Check. Open up the issue. Check. And we'll come back to this another day. And I'll start a recap. Hello and welcome to this Python and Django live code hangout. Oops, sorry, one more time. Hello and welcome to a recap of today's Python and Django live code hangout. We've been working on the Jerry Live Companionship Care app today, and just some relatively minor improvements to our continuous integration pipeline. Specifically running the project tests and doing a little bit of reorganization. We weren't running the test suite previously, and there's some minor naming convention improvements. Took a little bit to work through, but here's the pull request. It's in draft state, so I'll mark it as ready for review. As you just can see here, we had some failures as we were working through the improvements, but our current commit is passing all tests. And just as a way of reference, here is our CI pipeline. GitHub provides a free CodeQL service that'll analyze your code base and look for common security vulnerabilities. So we're using that. We have a Python lint pull request, which actually should be now named lint and test. I'll rename that off stream since we're summarizing now. And we're running this CodeQL somehow twice. I'm not sure that's the default. I think part of it is it puts the results in line as kind of comments in your code base if something occurs. This code base was mainly dealing with one file, so there's no inline comments, and we're also running code climate. So with these kind of automated checks and our own sort of bespoke tests, which are basically running Flake 8 and Black for formatting the code and some Python tests. We're putting our code base in a little bit, I think, on the track for better health. Let's take a quick look at what changed. And really it boils down to one configuration file that I was working on today. In this GitHub workflows, we have a Python YAML. And I reorganized the file. So this, for example, Flake 8 test was moved into a general lint stage, and I just renamed these to lint, isort and Black, and sort of the Flake 8. They're all kind of linting the code. They're making sure that our code passes low-level quality standards that can be automated. Those checks can be automated. The higher level stuff needs human review. Essentially, you can't really automate some tests, and those could include these, well, to a certain extent, writing automated unit and integration tests when you know there's a kind of a suite or a behavior that you want to ensure is working consistently. But also during the pull request review process, you'll be scanning for things like code that doesn't follow the project conventions, naming conventions, for example, or organizational, like file structure, or where to put models and things like that. And to a certain extent, those can't all be automated. So we will, of course, still be using pull request review to catch those. But our pipeline is essentially linting. It installs our dependencies, which we use Poetry Package Manager. And in Poetry, we'll install our Python dependencies in a virtual environment. Then we run isort in black and flake 8 to make sure the code at a low level passes quality checks. And we run our manage py test command to run the essentially unit or integration tests in the project. The remaining changes, I'm going to scroll kind of quickly, are just related to lint or ignoring lint rules, unused imports, lines that were too long, and some of it was black doesn't automatically format comments, so I just needed to make the comments a little bit shorter or ignore it in some cases. But for docstring comments, it was not a big deal to ignore those. And the Django migrations are auto-generated, don't quite pass AutoPep8, at least, the older ones. I think there's been some recent work in Django 4 to make the migrations pass black formatting requirements, which pretty much aligns with PEP8 with a minor configuration that you can see here to make those two harmonize. I think black is a bit more strict on PEP8 formatting than AutoPep8 itself. So that's, in a nutshell, the changes today. So yeah, thank you very much for your time, and I hope you're doing well out there.